Hi, Mac.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What's new and exciting?
Some more new comics.
Yeah. So, where you want to start today?
Well, I want to start by pointing out that it was very weird not having a new Empire comic to read today. In the main series, at least, we did have a tie-in that we're going to talk about, and let's start there.
Okay.
Empire, Lords of Empire, Swordsman. What'd you think?
I liked it. This is actually my pick of the week.
Oh wow, okay.
I like the almost by default, and I'll get into the other two later, but um, the father-son story, it took some twists and turns that I wasn't expecting, knowing what we know about Empire. So I liked it, and it wasn't large in scope by any stretch, but it was to me it was a nice, I don't want to say sweet, but you know character story that I enjoyed.
Yeah, so we're probably gonna differ a little bit on our comics this week, but I do agree. You pointed out that this was not very large in scope, and I did like that. I like that we were very pointed in one direction. Um, so I enjoyed that part of it. It was basically just focused on two characters.
Mm-hmm.
I think my problem with this is I'm really just not a fan of the Kotati, and that's my overall problem with Empire. I don't see them as interesting characters. I don't like them as the villains. I don't know. I'm just not really into it.
Yeah, and there's a different comic that I think is a better comic this week, but to me, this is why I enjoy comics, is that I like those character moments, and um, I like the Katati in this context more than I like it on the Super Intergalactic. Like when they talk about, you understand how they interface with the plants, and I think the Swordsman's an interesting character because sort of a symbiotic character, for lack of a better word, I guess.
Right.
So that's why I liked it. I don't know that it's a great comic, but of the three we read, this is the one I enjoyed the most.
Yeah, I think this one would have benefited too from a different release schedule. As I said a few weeks ago, whenever it was that we read Lords of Empire, Celestial Messiah, which is all about Koi. As I read it, I was not very into it. But then when I read the next Empire issue, I enjoyed it more, if that makes sense. It gave me that context that brought it all together for me. And this one, with this being the only Empire comic this week, it felt, I don't know, it felt unnecessary. It didn't feel like it gave me the context that I needed. It just kind of felt like it gave me a flashback for the sake of a flashback. But again, if another comic had come out today as well, I think I would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, and we've talked at length about like how Empire sort of suffered from the release date schedules
Right
situation, but yeah, I could see it. Especially, I kind of expected there to be an Empire when I was going through it, and I was like, oh, this is it.
right. So we'll move on to our next one here, which was Avengers number 35. And more importantly, this is the third issue in the Age of Khonshu story. And as you can see, obviously, I am a big Moon Knight fan. So I'm really enjoying this story for the sake of the character. I really like Moon Knight being put in the spotlight. And I really like the character work that's happening here. But to me, the story is starting to get a little bit lost. What do you think? Oh, looks like we might have a little bit of a technical issue. So anyway, just to keep ranting about Moon Knight and Age of Khonshu, the third issue in Age of Khonshu. And as you've seen in previous issues, Moon Knight is basically taking over, or the Moon God of Khonshu is taking over with Moon Knight as his fist. And he has defeated several of the Avengers and collected some of their weapons. He now has the power of the Iron Fist. He has the Spirit of Vengeance from Ghost Rider. He has Mjolnir, believe it or not, from Thor. So pretty exciting story for Moon Knight. But I do feel as though it's getting a little bit overcomplicated. Mephisto is in this story as well as the villain. which has been a lot of fun. Hey, welcome back.
Thanks.
So yeah, as I was saying, Mephisto is back in this as the villain, sort of, kind of, which has been fun. But it is starting to get a little bit too complicated. What do you think? What are your thoughts on Avengers 35?
I have no idea what you said, but I thought it was a little wordy.
Okay.
Even just like when, and obviously, when you're talking about gods and they tend to be a little verbose, but the whole thing about Iron Man and the Star Brand baby to me just was like, we get it. Like, I don't like you're monologuing to about your, like, it's just like, I felt like you could have said something, they could have done a silent panel and it would have been just as effective. So, I guess that's my rub. It's like, I just felt like there wasn't a lot going on. Like, this was basically getting the Avengers out of the way, for I think the next issue. But I just felt like it was a little dense for not being worthy of it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, that kind of reflects what I was just saying. I really like the work that they're doing with Moon Knight as the character, but I wish the story had been pointed more at him. He was only in maybe a couple of pages, whereas we had 4 or 5 pages of Tony Stark freaking out.
Right.
I get it. It's enjoyable for a page or two, but like we don't need that much of it. I think they're getting a little bit too spread out. I do like this Avengers team that just came in with Captain America and Blade and She-Hulk, and I like that getting them involved. But I wish it was more from Moon Knight's point of view and more focused on Moon Knight as a character.
Yeah, I agree with you. As we've talked, Avengers can get complicated, and I just feel like this story is not it's not hard to get your head around it, but I feel like it's unfortunate that they spend so much time dialoguing. Like, I just got off talking about how I love character moments, but I feel like in Avengers, there's better ways to do it than just internal, like, ethic fights with yourself.
Right, and I would be totally fine if it was the same thing, but if it was Moon Knight and not Iron Man, right. It seems like that's where the focus should have been. So that's really my issue. That being said, I am really excited to see the continuation of this series. I really want to see where this is going to go, and quite frankly, I want to see if this is actually happening or if it's all in Mark Spector's head. We'll have to find out. Our final issue, as you can see, is Maestro #1. I was looking forward to this one for a while, as this is one of the big ones that they hyped up for a little while now, and I was happy with it. This is my pick of the week. I really enjoyed this issue.
Yeah, as I was saying, like this to me, I think this is the better comic. I love Peter David in almost anything he does. Only thing is, with everything going on, and the fires that are causing my backyard to be hazy, the pandemic, I'm just was not in the mood for the end of the universe story.
Yeah, totally get it.
And so I think this is a great comic, but it's my pick of the week for like everyone else if we were in happier times and we could deal with post-apocalyptic drama.
Yeah, totally understand that. I think on the flip side of it, I think that is the biggest reason that I'm so into this series now. Is I've said this before. I love the comics that are real world situations, right? Like obviously the Hulk is this big, larger than life character, but how would he react? How would he deal with if this happened? If this real world situation possibly happened, and like getting into the character and how he would handle it. That's what I enjoy so much, and this really nails that whole aspect of it. I'm really.
I think all Hulk books though need to have like a little box and it says like what color is the Hulk right now? How smart is he? Like is Banner him? Is it two separate people? Like what's the situation here? There's even a joke in here where like he is under the impression he's with Betty, and then Black Widow goes, the sun's getting real low.
Yeah. I totally agree. You never know what version of Hulk when you're jumping into a new series. You never really know what you're getting. But I really like this character as we're starting off, and then we know it's interesting because we know where this is going to end. I just am still so excited to see how we get there, and I think it takes a really talented writer to get somebody excited despite knowing the outcome.
And a unique take on MODOK here, which I thought was cool.
Yes, definitely. Cool. So my pick of the week was Maestro #1. Yours was Lords of Empyre Swordsman. Any other notes on the comics before we move on to some news?
No, I know Mike reviewed the Star Wars comic of this week. I haven't had a chance to check it out, but I think the big news of, at least to me, the biggest news was the Wolverine news. So we want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Wolverine, Black, White, and Blood, which has
which sounds like a joke. Like, what's black, white, and blood all over?
Yeah. It's an amazing cast of writers and artists putting this series together, and it's actually the first issue is going to be multiple stories. This looks awesome. The art looks fantastic. An exciting new Wolverine story is always going to be fun, and like I said, just awesome cast of talent putting it all together. So this should be a lot of fun. I actually wanted to. They've announced several new comics coming out in November, and it includes let's see what else here: Widowmaker's Red Guardian and Yelena Belova, Taskmaster, Atlantis Attacks, which is continuing from way back when I completely forgot about that series, and then Marvel's Indigenous Voices #1. Of all of those, would you say is Wolverine the one you're most looking forward to?
Yeah, I mean, like Atlantis Attacks. Like, I mean, I like the Atlantis. I'm a big fan of Namor, but yeah, I think because it's fresh. It's a fresh take as opposed to, like, obviously Widowmakers is a cash grab for the Black Widow movie.
Sure.
Indigenous Voices, I enjoy those comics, but they're really there to bring new perspectives, which is great, but they're sort of short, typically, little vignettes. So I would say the Wolverine, even though I'm not the world's biggest Wolverine fan, I mean, I like him, but I feel like he's overplayed. I would say that that is perhaps what I'm most looking forward to in the near term. You?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I'm with you. I'm not the biggest Wolverine fan either, but this comic looks very interesting. Especially, I mean, the art really just grabbed me as soon as I saw it, and definitely looking forward to, at the very least, flipping through those pages and seeing what kind of art they put together. I am also looking forward to. I agree, it's definitely a cash grab, but I love Taskmaster as a character, so I'm looking forward to him getting his own series as well. So some exciting comics coming in November.
Speaking of, like, probably the biggest launch that we know about outside of, like, the big tennis swords and all that stuff, is the new Iron Man reboot.
Yeah, and there was an interview recently with the writer Chris Cantwell, who talked about his inspiration for this new series, and he mentioned Tony Stark is something along the lines, to paraphrase, he said something along, Tony Stark is a man who thinks he's a god, but a god who wants to be a man. And that just stuck with me. I thought that was such a perfect description of the character. And with that sort of mentality going into this series, I'm excited to start and really to get a fresh start with Iron Man, because as is the case with so many Marvel characters, there's such a long, complicated past that whenever you jump into a series, you never know what you're going to get, as you were saying with Hulk earlier. Mm-hmm. So to kind of get this fresh start on Iron Man should be interesting.
And a gorgeous Alex Ross, I mean, goes without saying, but a gorgeous Alex Ross cover.
Right, definitely. Sort of history of Iron Man there is really cool.
I do want to mention something that's not a comic. We all know that, like, 18 years ago, New Mutants was supposed to come out from at that time 20th Century Fox, and so this week they had the press conference with the cast and the director. Now, typically we've seen the film, and so we can ask questions about the film. This time we haven't seen the film, and but so a lot of questions were more like, what was it like making the film, and what I thought was interesting is ever since I think the acquisition, we heard stories like rumors of reshoots, right? And he tells us, no, there was no additional photography. They had planned on doing additional photography, as you often do in these big movies. Star Wars does it. All the Marvel movies do it.
Sure.
All the Marvel Studios movies do it. But there's no reshoots in this film. And so I don't know what to expect. You're going to see it because movie theaters here are so closed. So I don't know. Are you excited? I'm just sort of dumbfounded at this point about
Yeah, so we've talked about New Mutants a little bit over the last few weeks. I'm still, until I am sitting in a theater and the movie starts, I'm still not sure it's coming out. Not completely convinced. But we've agreed with this too. That I think this movie has actually benefited from the way that this has happened. Like when it first came out, I wasn't all that excited. We knew the X-Men franchise was on its way out, and this is the last, the last hurrah or whatever you want to call it. But I think the way this has been stretched out and the anticipation has been allowed to build for what feels like 3 years now. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to go see it.
Yeah, I kind of can't be because I don't get to see it. I'm curious to see. It's interesting. I will know if it's a good movie or bad movie before I see it, which is
sure
not normal. Either I see it, opening night, or I, see it as part of this gig before it comes out. And I know in reality that if it's great or even halfway decent, I'll be excited to see it. But if it's terrible, I probably won't go see it. I'll wait for it to show up on whatever streaming service it desires. But it was interesting. The cast still seems, even 20 years later, they still seem enthusiastic about the film. And
Maisie Williams was like 12 when she filmed this movie. She's 18 now. So
yeah. That might go into why they couldn't do reshoots. But yeah, it's funny that Magic Camp and this ended up getting released
so close to each other. Yeah. So real quick, take bets. Is this going to be better or worse than Dark Phoenix?
I feel like with Dark Phoenix they tried, and I don't mean that in a bad, like that this movie they didn't care or anything like that. But I feel like once they reached a point in the sort of corporation part of it where this movie didn't matter at all, and so if there was any stretched, obviously they didn't do reshoots. I don't know if there's some extra money that there's to make some special effects better. And I don't know, but I feel like this is Disney releasing a movie, so I can say they're releasing a movie in theaters. Doesn't really care at this point, and we'll see. It's not going to have any sort of surprise tie-in to the MCU that I think a lot of people are hoping for, at least some sort of.
Yeah, I wouldn't count on that.
Yeah, and so.
Honestly, I would be surprised if there's even a post-credit scene at all.
Yeah. Well, especially since, it's a kind of a dead franchise.
Right.
It's just, Disney's going to go take, focus on MCU films because they typically are better and they also perform better. But, what's interesting is you covered, and I'll share this tab, see how that looks. And you tell me if it looks okay. Of the Venom figures that they're releasing from Marvel Legends line.
Yeah.
And so there's Venom. There's Venom Pool Build-A-Figure. So you get those parts with the Carnage figure, the Phage figure, and the Morbius and Ghost Spiders.
And then the Miles Morales as well.
Yeah, the sort of Venomized Miles Morales group. And what's interesting to me is they were talking about how the Sony films, like they don't get to see the stuff as they do in the Marvel Studios films. So there's a longer delay between when the movie comes out and the figures come out, or the figures come out, not quite day and date as typical, unless you're Black Widow, where it came out like 6 months before. Right. The figures usually come in, around the time the movie release, which I find funny because the Marvel films are so hush hush because they connect. Something in a Marvel movie could influence your perspective of a different Marvel movie.
Sure.
And whereas the Sony, I know they're trying to build a universe, but it's a universe no one really cares about yet. Maybe I'll get there. But I find that funny that, Hasbro's not part of the Walt Disney Company, but that they have a better licensing relationship than with the Sony Pictures folks.
Yeah, I thought that was weird too. And I couldn't believe when they announced that these were the first figure, or this was at least the first figure based on the Venom movie from 2018. Obviously, I keep tabs on this sort of news all the time. I'm not an avid collector by any means, but I'm very surprised. I just assumed that there already had been figures based on that movie, but that Venom figure from the movie looks awesome, by the way. I love the design of it.
Yeah. I gotta say the Marvel Legends line's killing it. You think of how there's obviously high-end toy companies out there. And you think of sort of Hasbro as being like the kiddie version, and they have this Marvel Legends is their higher end line,
right?
But with the way they're able to get the face sculpt so great, their new technology with pinless action figures. Even just getting clever with the interchangeable Professor X's and Magneto set. It's I think, and when you watch these live streams, they're not like super well produced. They're better than ours, but they're not like like a Disney level kind of thing,
right?
But I think that it's charming because you get their passion for the characters, and
definitely
you don't this isn't like some stiff who has a license and he just goes through the catalog and says, "Oh, he looks cool, let's make him." They know who in the set hasn't been done yet. They know what the fans want, so I think that's really cool.
Yeah, they like you said, they know, they have a good feel for exactly what the fans want to see next, and they're aware of these characters and their history and what their features are. So yeah, like you said, it's charming. They are very much a part of this world, and these streams are very entertaining. They also do a really good job of just these little teases at the end of each one for whatever the next figure might be. So definitely always watch them to the end if you're going to check them out.
So you did an interesting article as the editorial director for Marvel Content on Easter eggs in Universal's superhero island at Universal's Islands of Adventures. Okay, I think I got that. Talking about some of the cool things. I don't want to go through them all because that kind of defeats the whole purpose of having an article.
Right. Yeah.
But do you have a favorite?
Definitely, yes. So and it's funny, my favorite is the one that's not a Marvel Easter egg so much. The artist Adam Kubert, he's the one who did those amazing big, sort of cardboard pop-out characters that you see around the land, and wasn't allowed to put his signature on the art. So instead, he snuck his name into the design of them, and you can see in the article up on laughingplace.com right now a few pictures of some of these cutouts where you can see Adam kind of hidden in the design, which is really cool. But there's also so many other nods to characters and some obvious like Thor and, Stark Enterprises and stuff like that. But then there's some other ones like Gladiator and so many other like really subtle nods to other characters that most theme park goers, one, are not aware of as a character, and two, are not even going to ever notice these details. So it's so cool to me that they went, put in the work to actually put those details in there, knowing, maybe 20%, less than that, 10% of people are going to even ever notice them.
I had no idea Adam's name was on Captain America's hand. Yeah,
it's one of the coolest. That might be my favorite Easter egg in a theme park, to be honest. You can find it in a whole bunch of different characters. It's really cool.
That's cool. So is it weird not to have an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to talk about?
Yes, it is. Well, it's funny. So a little peek behind the curtain usually on these days. This is, sort of my big Marvel day. We have our comics and our talk. And I usually start off by watching tonight's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then putting together the recap. And it felt very weird. Like something was missing today. I didn't have that to do. So yeah, very strange for sure.
So, yeah, I'm kind of torn right now because, like, I know production's starting to get back. Obviously, we're getting comics again. I feel like, obviously it was not normal, but we're getting to a sort of a not everything's frozen phase of life. But it's also such an end of an era for so many Marvel things, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Marvel Television as a whole. The Fox Mutantverse, whatever you want to call that. So, I'm excited for the future. Kind of, bittersweet about the past, but I'm really hoping soon we can learn more about like Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision, Loki, and really get excited about where these things are going, and maybe even see Black Widow in a movie theater. I mean, if I dare to dream.
Yeah, I'll say those Marvel Disney Plus projects are that's what I'm most excited about right now for the future. So yeah, whatever little bit of news they can give us on that, I'm here for it.
Cool. Well, thanks so much, Mac.
Yeah,
we'll be back next week. I presume there'll be an Empyre issue to talk about and whatever else happens between now and then. So thanks, guys, for watching.
Bye.